Like unmarked graves, the portraits from the Holtermann collection have laid dormant in the vaults of the State Library of New South Wales in Sydney for over 7 decades. They now rest in their cryogenic black and white state, seemingly without a past or a future. Their fixed gazes stare back at us as frozen subjects from history. But who were they? By researching each individual, and as more and more details are discovered, they will slowly regain the colour they once had, but more importantly, their personality that has eluded them for over 150 years. Come with us back in time as we attempt to bring these forgotten strangers back to life. This rather distinguished-looking gentleman is identified by the collection as A2823818. His poised persona gives the impression of a successful businessman, but judging by first impressions, he could have been anything in his life. It is possible that he might have been a businessman, or maybe he was an artist, or even a photographer himself. Those classic Mark Twain features may indicate that he may have been a paddle steamer captain along the Murray River, or an eccentric showman, or was he just a gold miner? In all probability, he was none of these at all. But by looking deep into his life, we may be able to peel back the black and white facade and expose the true colours of Mr. A2823818. As we now know, the first step is to establish a name for the subject. And that name can always be found at the top of the photograph, where it is scratched onto the reverse side of the glass plate negative. But as we also know, it obviously appears backwards. So, when now reversed, it can be deciphered as Mr. G. Pierce. Now that we have discovered that his surname was Pierce, and the first initial of his first name is G, the first layers of his black and white appearance begin to dissolve. A search of the usual resources relating to Hill End at first fails to uncover anyone by the name of Mr. G. Pierce. However, further research reveals that a gentleman by the name of Gus Pierce, with the bracketed pseudonym of Captain, is revealed in Harry Hodges' The Hill End Story, Book 1. The record even indicates that Gus, or should we now say Captain Gus, was connected to a group of travelling performers called the Great Varieties Theatre. From here, a simple search unveils an absolute wealth of information relating to Captain Gus Pierce, including this photograph from the Holtermann collection, which carries the lengthy title of Great Varieties Hall, Tent Theatre, Clark Street, run by William B. Gill, and Captain Gus Pierce. The title further elaborates that Gus is obviously short for Augustus, and his full name is Augustus Baker Pierce. For anyone who is familiar with the historic gold mining town of Hill End in New South Wales, will recognise this current view of Clark Street. And Gus's Great Varieties tent was located roughly in this area. So, now that we know his full name, and that he was actually a theatrical performer, as we initially guessed he might have been, and to further dissolve more of the black and white veil, we need to establish where he came from and what he did before his arrival in Hill End. And you don't have to look far to find the full story of Augustus Baker Pierce. For those who don't know this well-documented gentleman, you will be surprised to know that Augustus, or Gus, as he was affectionately known, was actually born in West Medford, Massachusetts, in the United States of America, on the 7th of October, 1840. While his birth name was spelt P-E-I-R-C-E, he generally used the alternative spelling of P-I-E-R-C-E while he was living in Australia. Gus would later become a sailor, and while on duty to Australia in 1859, he jumped ship and swam to Port Phillip in Melbourne. He married Agnes Carney sometime in the late 1850s and had 2 children. And, as mentioned in the introduction to this story, Gus Pierce could have been anything in his life, and we have already established that he was a performer. But before this, he was a landscape photographer and an artist. And in reference to his nickname, well, Captain Gus Pierce was actually a paddle steamer captain on the Murray River. We have barely scratched the surface of this amazing, ever-evolving man, much of which is revealed in his personal memoirs titled Knocking About: The Adventures of Augustus Baker Pierce in Australia. And yes, to add to his many talents and vocations, he was a gold miner. Following the passing of his wife Agnes in 1894, Gus returned to his birthplace at West Medford in the United States, before settling in Wheeling, Ohio, West Virginia. It is stated that Gus passed away in 1919. However, there are records stating that his date of passing was February 16th, 1920, in Wheeling, Ohio, and he was laid to rest close to his birthplace in Suffolk, Massachusetts. He was 79 years old.
How long have I been asleep?
105 years, Gus. You can now finally rest in peace.